Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening, it's Thursday, June 3rd. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. While pandemic restrictions are set to be lifted on June 15th, there's still a question about wearing masks in the workplace. A CalOSHA committee has been meeting all day, hearing arguments for and against keeping a mask mandate. And at this hour, there's still no decision. KPBS reporter Melissa May talked with a local business leader about what an extension could mean.
The proposal would require masks in the workplace even after June 15th, unless all employees are vaccinated. Business leaders say that's contrary to what Governor Newsom has said and the CDC's guidelines. Jerry Sanders is president and CEO of the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce.
But it will mean that it's not a full opening like the governor said it's going to be.
Sanders says a separate standard for workplaces would be confusing.
They're going to have a lot of people coming in there who have listened to the governor saying you don't need to wear a mask, and listen to the CDC, which says you don't have to wear a mask, and then CalOSHA saying you do. So it's so confusing for all business, but just people in general.
He also says an extension would be an obstacle for businesses trying to recover from the pandemic.
If they vote to uphold those guidelines, there's going to be kind of chaos in the business world because not all businesses are set up to have an HR department and all of that. A lot of small business got 4 or 5 employees, and they're not going to be sure what to do. Once they issue that guideline, then employers have to abide by that. They don't have a choice. So OSHA is setting up businesses to fail.
Sanders says the chamber is prepared to take action on behalf of its 2,500 members. Melissa May, KPBS News.
And the CalOSHA board is still taking public comments before any vote can take place. 800 people signed up to weigh in on the matter. Just under 2 million San Diegans have now gotten their COVID-19 vaccine, but it remains unclear if a third booster shot will be needed in the near future. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman looks into why we might need them.
So the less the virus circulates, the less critical boosters are.
Infectious disease expert Shane Crotty at the La Jolla Institute for Immunology is one of the nation's leading researchers on COVID-19.
And also a paper from NIH grantees from La Jolla just came out. Okay, the studies that you quote from Crotty.
Dr. Anthony Fauci has cited his research during congressional hearings, and when it comes to booster shots, Crotty says drug makers like Moderna have already been developing and testing them.
And the booster shots did work, and they also had a variant booster shot, and that one worked too.
So booster shots will likely be available. The big question, though, when or if they'll be needed. Crotty says it comes down to 2 things. 1, how long the immunity from the vaccines lasts, and 2, the variants.
So several of these variants of concern are more worrisome than the original strain, and some of them escape immunity to some degree. So essentially the variants are tougher to stop than the original virus, and so the vaccine might not last as long.
Crotty says there's a 50-50 chance that booster shots will be recommended by the winter of this year, but they might not be for everyone right away.
That there's a risk assessment that says, okay, if you're over 65, you should get a booster immunization at this point. And if you're under 65, you can wait longer, maybe another year or something.
He says the best case scenario is that the vaccines last a couple of years, but we just don't know that yet.
Basically, we just need more time. We just don't have a clear historical reference point for saying, oh, here's how long immunity lasts after you've had an RNA vaccine. We're having to measure that and watch that every month as time goes by.
Booster shots can also depend on infection rates.
SARS-2 is not going to be eradicated. It's too widespread and too easily spread from person to person.
San Diego County is nearly 3/4 of the way to its goal of herd immunity, but he says it's a key way to stop the virus, especially in internationally traveled areas like San Diego.
Herd immunity also isn't just this line that you suddenly cross, and nothing happens before it, and then everything happens as soon as you cross it. There's a progression there. And I think most people think we're in the range where herd immunity should be having an effect now, and it should just get better and better the more people you can get vaccinated.
Crotty says some areas will likely not get to herd immunity and in turn continue to see pockets of outbreaks. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
And if you have not been vaccinated yet, or if you need help finding a shot for a family member, we have all the information for you on our website. Just click on the vaccines link that you're going to find on our homepage at kpbs.org, and there you can find a location that is close to you. The county's new eviction moratorium takes effect today. KPBS reporter Alexandra Rangel has more on why local housing advocates are demanding the city and the state do more to hold landlords accountable.
Housing is! I was broken. I did not know where to go. I didn't know what I was going to do. I had lost my job, and I was worried to be evicted.
Despite a statewide eviction moratorium in place until June 30, Patricia Mendoza's landlord has tried to evict her at least 3 times during the pandemic. Like many, Mendoza didn't know what her rights were, but ACE Action, the local Alliance of Californians for Community Empowerment, stepped in to help her. Now that the county approved an eviction ban for 60 days after the state reopens on June 15, tenants struggling to pay rent have a little more breathing room. But Jania Wall, an advocate for ACE, says landlords can't be trusted.
Can't count on the landlords to do what is ethically right or legally right.
Misha Sanders and Tanisha Brown are the prime example. The couple has been asked to vacate their apartment in City Heights.
Since COVID has happened, our jobs are no more.
Brown says they owe $6,000 in back rent. Their property owners, Constellation Management, have given them until June 15 to move out. And that's not all. Brown says the living conditions in her apartment for the last 4 years have been inhabitable.
We've been infested with rats, not just little mice, but rats.
Under the city's ordinance, 20% of rent will be forgiven for tenants with back rent. And through the state's rent relief program, renters are expected to recoup 80%.
If you wouldn't allow your...
But ACE says it's not enough. The group is advocating for rent control and a ban on landlord abuse. Alexandra Rangel, KPBS News.
Oceanside City Council has approved a police department request to install a network of security cameras in the downtown area. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne has reaction to the decision.
It's no secret that the city of Oceanside has been expanding by building beachfront resorts. New restaurants and breweries are popping up that could make this the next hotspot destination for tourists and visitors. But with that comes the added security measures. So now Oceanside Police Department has requested the installation of security cameras here in downtown Oceanside.
At Wednesday's City Council meeting, the contract to purchase and install 54 surveillance cameras in the city's downtown area was approved. The cameras are intended to help monitor crime in the area and local businesses.
We're about 20 officers short, and, we have a number of incidents that occurred downtown. We thought it was just a great idea to put these video surveillance cameras in the downtown area.
Isabella Vincent works at SoCal Trading Company in downtown Oceanside and supports the installation of the cameras.
Someone followed me from the train into the store and eventually tried stealing things. And by the time the cops came, he had already ran off. And so there wasn't anything we could do about it besides give a description and hopefully they'd see him again.
But not everyone agrees with the installation of the cameras. This Oceanside resident who did not want to share her name said the cameras are an invasion of privacy.
And it's okay for businesses, but I think in people's privacy, I'm really opposed to it because that means you're tracking me, where I go, what I do.
Oceanside Police Department said citizens should not be concerned about privacy because the footage will not be monitored daily and will only be saved for 1 year. The cameras are costing the city $497,000 that will be paid through the Measure X budget approved last year. In Oceanside, Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
This week, the San Diego Police Department released new procedures for interacting with transgender and non-binary people. But KPBS race and equity reporter Christina Kim finds that many in the LGBTQ community believe more work needs to be done to rebuild the trust.
Glad that they're making these policies public, glad that they're pushing that forward.
Fernando Lopez applauds the police department's newly released procedures, which include using people's preferred pronouns and booking individuals in facilities that align with their gender identity. But as the executive director of SD Pride, Lopez is quick to say that this is just one step on the road towards more equitable treatment.
I am really looking forward to listening to the LGBTQ Black community members that are leading the Healing and Safer Communities work that we're doing. Right now, that work is not complete.
Charlie Brown is a Black gay activist who organized protests last summer. He says the LGBT community still has scars from decades of police mistreatment.
I mean, let's face it, San Diego Police Department has a lot of building of trust to do with the LGBT plus community. And I think they need to take a step back and just work on the relationship. And trust is going to take a while. You know, people are afraid of the police.
Meanwhile, with San Diego Pride due to kick off later this month, Lopez says the future of police at SD Pride remains unclear. But one thing they want to make sure stays the same is honoring the history of Pride. It began after Black and Latino trans people fought back against a police raid in 1969 at New York City's Stonewall Inn.
Our origins are literally in response to state-sanctioned police violence. That often gets ignored. And yes, like celebrate queer joy, but so that queer joy is in pursuit of justice.
SD Pride will be hosting the annual Spirit of Stonewall on July 16th. For more information, visit sdpride.org. Christina Kim, KPBS News.
The San Diego Unified School District is reporting that absenteeism was up and grades were down during the pandemic school year. KPBS education reporter Joe Hong explains which student groups struggled the most and how the district will help them recover.
Overall attendance at San Diego Unified was down this year, with Black and Latinx students as well as English learners and students with disabilities seeing the biggest declines. School Board President Richard Barrera says this trend should reverse as students return to campus, but the district will also invest in counseling services to help students get re-engaged in learning.
Students, first of all, were not feeling engaged in their classes. And then with all the other stress that's going on in students' lives and their families' lives, unfortunately, it's not surprising that we saw, a decline in attendance and an increase in chronic absenteeism.
Chronic absenteeism rates nearly doubled for some student groups in the district. The number of students missing at least 10% of the school year shot up 10 percentage points for Black students and 11 percentage points for English learners. English learners also had disproportionately lower grades during the pandemic. Barrera said the district will focus on teacher training to replicate its pre-pandemic successes with English learners.
Developing the capacity of the classroom teacher to support English learners, has been a strategy that's shown to have really positive outcomes in, for instance, reducing the number of long-term English learners.
Finally, Barrera says he's confident that both a return to in-person instruction and more focused efforts will remediate academic losses across all grade levels and student groups. Joe Hong, KPBS News.
The CDC director says she believes guidance to wear masks in schools will be lifted by the time students return to class in the fall. Dr. Rochelle Walensky told Good Morning America today that her agency is reviewing both COVID infection and vaccination rates. Vaccines are currently approved by the Federal Drug Administration for children as young as 12 years old, but not younger. The CDC director says she's confident the country will meet President Biden's goal of 70% of U.S. adults receiving at least one COVID-19 shot before July 4th. And as Daryl Forges reports, there's also some big news on the vaccine front for kids.
The pandemic numbers continue to show promising signs for the United States.
Already 63% of adult Americans have received at least one shot, and 52% of adult Americans are fully vaccinated. As a result, in communities and states across the country, the pandemic is in retreat.
For the first time in 14 months, the U.S. is averaging fewer than 20,000 new cases per day. Hospitalizations and deaths are at their lowest points in months. The White House coronavirus response coordinator says he's optimistic the nation will meet President Biden's goal of 70% of adults receiving at least one COVID-19 vaccine shot by July 4th. But so far, the U.S. is only averaging 1.1 million vaccinations per day. That number was 3 times higher in April. So the government is getting creative. Anheuser-Busch offering free beers if the country reaches Biden's goal.
His leadership is to get people as vaccinated as quickly as possible, as many as possible, whatever it takes. Make it extremely easy for people to get vaccinated. Give incentives. Do whatever you can.
Dr. Fauci says there's a possibility children younger than 12 could get vaccinated by Thanksgiving.
We hope that as we approach the end of this calendar year, we'll have enough information to vaccinate children of any age. So I'm cautiously optimistic we might be there by the end of the year.
Daryl Forges, KPBS News.
A controversial bill that would make sweeping changes to California's energy marketplace has been put on hold. The Assembly bill was authored by San Diego Democrat Lorena Gonzalez, and she says the current system of paying for rooftop-generated electricity unfairly shifts costs to residents who don't have solar panels. The solar industry objected strongly, saying it would be devastated.
It not only kills the market going forward, but it retroactively claws back savings for existing customers, particularly targeting small school districts, small businesses, and low-income solar users that have taken advantage of the no money down financing options that have really opened up the market to our lower income consumers.
Gonzalez says the measure cannot be voted on tomorrow and won't be eligible to be reconsidered until next year.
June gloom continuing, yet nothing's changing over the next few days as far as our weather's concerned. It's going to be a pattern on repeat. Morning clouds for the coast giving way to afternoon sunshine. And for our interior locations, it's all about the heat, triple-digit numbers, which is why we do have some concern with heat, excessive heat warnings for some of our eastern locations here. So we will continue to monitor that with a few spots. But again, once you're towards the coastal influence does not have the same impact, which is why we'll hit 62 for the low tonight in San Diego. Some coastal clouds still working into Oceanside, 60 degrees. And once you work your way farther towards the east, Mount Laguna coming in at 68 for that low. Futurecast shows that we've got, again, the June gloom, as we like to call it sometimes, still hanging around, and that's going to continue right through your Friday morning. A little bit of sunshine breaking out a little bit later in the day, but that cloud cover does manage to keep the coast cooler. Once you get through the interior spots here, that heat has been building. It does not let up anytime soon. So Friday right into the weekend, same story. For tomorrow's forecast, San Diego 70 for that high. Again, clouds giving way to afternoon sunshine. Oceanside probably a little bit cloudier with that layer, keeping things a little bit cooler. Chula Vista 71 for your high. And Borrego Springs triple digits 107 for the afternoon. The weekend pattern on repeat. I told you it's the same thing. While there will be relief in the northwest, we will not be finding that. It doesn't come as far south for us, that cold front. So that's why the next couple of days hanging out in the lower 70s right through the weekend for the coast with, again, a lot of those low clouds starting off the day, bringing in more sunshine later. Inland locations, it's fog to sunshine as we hit 79 on Sunday and somewhere in the lower 80s the next few days. Mountain locations holding on to the 60s or 70s for so many days, maybe a little bit cooler for Monday and Tuesday. And for the deserts, a lot of triple-digit heat, but we'll try to ease things off heading into Monday and Tuesday in the upper 90s. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Melissa Constanzer.
It may feel like the pandemic is nearing an end, but the need for food assistance is not going away. The Rock Church is still trying to meet the demand of distributing groceries throughout communities. Church members say many people are still struggling.
Onset, you had a tremendous amount of people who were out of work and needed resources immediately. What we're seeing now are folks in industries that are still being impacted, where they're either not back to work or maybe work is very slow for them.
Today, members handed out food, some diapers, and supplies to those in need in San Marcos. According to the San Diego Food Bank, 450,000 San Diegans face food insecurity every day. As more asylum seekers are let into the United States by the Biden administration, those who have waited months in desperate conditions in Mexico are finally seeing their dreams come true. KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler joined one Honduran family as they started their new life in the United States.
It's early March at the migrant encampment in El Chaparral Plaza in Tijuana. There, hundreds of asylum seekers are looking for information. Any sign that they'll be allowed into the U.S. under the new Biden administration. Braden Lainez is one of those asylum seekers. He has his 6-month-old son strapped to his chest. He and his partner have been waiting in Mexico for a year and a half to declare asylum in the U.S., fleeing as Honduras deteriorates amidst political violence and social instability. Lainez pulls a flag he's carrying with him out of a backpack. It's a Biden for President flag, and Lainez waves it in front of him. To him, it represents a new chance, a possible reversal of fortune after a brutal few years. Sitting in Mission Bay Park in San Diego this past Tuesday, Lainez tears up thinking about what his family has had to go through to get here. His son is now 9 months old and on the verge of walking. He said he had plans just to give up. He had come so far already, just to be stopped at the border for so long. Lainez shows off scars from a machete attack in Honduras, which he says was politically motivated. Lainez said he thought he was going to be killed in the attack, but God must have put a guardian angel in his path, one who defended him, because he has no idea how he was able to escape. He left the country with his clothes still wet. His mother had just done laundry. That escape led them to Mexico, but then Lainez and his partner, Yuris Erazo, encountered a Trump-era policy known as Title 42, which has put a near-total halt to the processing of all asylum seekers at the border. In recent weeks, an agreement hammered out by the Biden administration and the American Civil Liberties Union has allowed vulnerable asylum seekers to enter the United States. Erazo describes just how bad things were in the migrant encampment, where they moved to after a year already spent in shelters in Tijuana. It was all very difficult, she said. The children cried from the cold. They gave us blankets. It was very sad, but we triumphed. And here we are, thank God. They got help from the group El Otro Lado, which has assisted thousands of vulnerable asylum seekers in Tijuana. After crossing the border last week, they stayed in a hotel room paid for by the state until travel could be arranged. On Tuesday, Eitan Peled from the Jewish Family Service of San Diego helped the family get ready to move to New York, where their sponsor awaits. The group helped more than 3,600 migrants entering the U.S. during the month of May. He showed the young family how to navigate San Diego International Airport, which is harder if you don't speak the language or have never been in an airport before.
We're really excited that we're seeing arrivals again, that we're seeing the arrivals in the numbers that we are, because we know these are all people that are really in desperate need of help, of international protection. The stories that you hear are really, really horrifying, and so I think the implementation of something like Title 42 was really horrible because it denied people access. When I think what we're doing is showing that we can both protect public health and afford folks the access or the right to seek asylum.
Lainez says he got comments about the flag he flew with the president's name on it. It wasn't Biden that motivated him to come, but he said this didn't have to do with politics. He says people tried to insult him, bring him down, but he was holding on to it not out of support for a politician, but because it gave him hope of someday getting into the U.S. On Tuesday, Lainez, Erazo, and their son walked down the jetway to a plane. They'll face years of uncertainty about their status in the U.S., but for the first time in 2 years, their lives are no longer in immediate danger. Max Rivlin-Nadler, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, the White House outlines a plan to donate unused COVID vaccines to countries in need. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And here's another look at our top story tonight. California workplace regulators are considering ending mask rules if every employee has been fully vaccinated against the coronavirus. The CDC says fully vaccinated people can skip face coverings and distancing in almost all situations. California is set to follow that recommendation starting on June 15th, but the CalOSHA board says conditions are different among workers. The board has been meeting all day, but no decision has come down yet. Disneyland now says it will open to non-California residents after June 15th. And that's not all. Tomorrow, an all-new land makes its grand opening, and it's super exciting. Avengers Campus at Disney's California Adventure. New attractions in the 6-acre site include the interactive ride Web Slingers, which is a Spider-Man adventure. Also, Avengers headquarters, all types of themed food choices, like Tony Stark's favorite food, the shawarma, and live shows with some of our favorite characters like Doctor Strange and Black Panther.
It's been really exciting to collaborate with our partners at the studio that have been bringing these extraordinary characters to life on screen, and now we get to walk amongst them.
So as we see new heroes and new villains show up, we're going to expand our campus. We're going to keep growing, and we're going to meet these new heroes as they arrive in our TVs and in the films.
You'll even see Spider-Man high above the park and Captain America, as well as others. And you still have to make a reservation on the Disneyland website to visit either of the two theme parks. And of course, COVID safety guidelines are still in place. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.